the 37th episode of CloudFocus Weekly for the 4th week of March 2011. This episode is titled Gone to 11. CloudFocus Weekly is sponsored by Arkus, cloud computing experts. I am your host, Jason Atwood, and joining me, special guest today, and for the last 37 times, is my co-host and partner in crime here at Arkus, Justin Elstein. Justin, how are you doing today?
Thought you were going to say someone else for a second there.
No, I was not going to say that.
Everyone was getting excited.
Everybody who's listening was probably getting excited. Speaking of getting excited, we have a great agenda today. We're going to talk about a new blog post. Do that every single time. New blog post that we did this week. Actually, Larry, the unmentionable, did it. We'll talk about what he had to say. And then we have a couple pieces of Google News. Google does discussions and speech-to-text in Chrome 11. It's interesting stuff. Amazon Android App Store and the legal fallout of that. And then we have some LinkedIn news. So LinkedIn passing 100 million members.
We very rarely talk about LinkedIn. We always leave them behind.
They're up and coming. 100 million is a big number to hit. And then we'll make our CloudFocus app pick of the weeks. I predict that you pick something from Force.com Labs.
Your prediction's wrong.
Okay. So let's kick it off with Larry's blog post.
Let's do that.
Entitled March Madness and the Downfall of Netflix.
That's quite a title. Got a lot of things going on there.
It is a lot of things. How could March Madness and the downfall of Netflix be connected?
You tell me.
So the podcast. I do this. The blog post.
This is a mental thing for you.
It is. It's a mental block. It's a search and replace string that just keeps happening. It's text expander.
That was rather geeky.
Really, at this point, you're going to call me geeky. The blog post was about Larry's experience watching the NCAA March Madness, which is in March, which is now, which we were actually watching at a local establishment on the iPad, and that now
we were watching it on the televisions and also on an iPad because we were
streaming over local Wi-Fi, and basically how we're getting there in terms of streaming live sports events, which has always sort of been the thing that live TV, and we talk about this is becoming a big topic this year. I think it was one of my predictions for 2011, which is that there's going to be major roads into this. We've talked about Hulu, we talked about Netflix streaming, we talked about Apple TV adding MLB.
We love streaming, so we just talk about it all the time. We do,
because it's all sort of from the cloud.
You're just trying to make your prediction come true by talking about it.
If I talk about it enough, maybe it will come true. So, talking about he talks about streaming the NCAA
using my pick of the week from last week.
Yep.
The NCAA on demand. Which is great.
Still out there, still be used because they're still
phenomenal.
Going into...
There's games tonight.
Yep.
4 games tonight.
And also about Netflix, the downfall of Netflix. There's two big news things about Netflix. One is that they had some service outages for the last couple days.
I noticed that when I went to hit Netflix on demand or Netflix streaming via my Apple TV.
When?
A couple nights ago.
Yep, it crapped out.
It just was like, service can't be reached. I was like, oh... That's sort of lame when I go and I want to, watch something.
So they had a big outage last Saturday night.
And that might have been exactly when it was.
And then they had an outage Wednesday night, and they had an outage, Tuesday night and Wednesday night. So, a little side story. I tweeted this, so I'll do a side story. And
I saw your tweet. I was wondering what you were talking about. If
anybody wants to go read the blog post, it will be up as soon as this podcast is up at blog.arkusinc.com. But let me tell you a side story. So, I actually am one of those guys, maybe a little geeky, but I gave a call up to Netflix and wanted to talk to somebody. I went on their website and I was going to put in a ticket. Basically a suggestion, like, hey guys, you're having these issues, these outage issues. I have a few suggestions. As someone who's been in this business for a long time, meaning computing and websites and cloud computing and all that for a while, and now helps people leverage the cloud, I have a few tips for you guys. And so I called up, and I'll tell you, in the first round, very friendly people, but when I started asking questions, what happened, how long you're down for, no answer, couldn't, it's all proprietary information. So then I started going down the path of saying, oh, really, well, I think maybe a best practice would be, why don't you look at some of the other vendors who are scaling and doing cloud services, and that they're providing updates via the web, meaning I can log into trust.salesforce.com, Google Apps dashboard, and Mobile Me dashboard and see any service interruptions. I was like, you should probably integrate that into your process. So I got into this big discussion. I then got transferred to a manager and had the discussion again.
I'm sure they just were like, thank you, customer guy.
Well, no.
Click.
They weren't. And I'll tell you why. A couple reasons. One is I've been a customer since March 2001. So I've actually been a customer.
Got some street cred.
I got some street cred. 10 years of Netflix gives me some street cred.
You built Netflix.
Kinda. I did the quick math and I said, I've probably given you thousands of dollars over my lifespan. The other thing was I was saying, this is what companies are doing. They're giving, you don't have to give away your intellectual secrets, but you should allow your customers an ability to see what's going on with your service. It's called transparency. And so you need to provide that when you're charging people money for a service that is supposed to be 24/7, and it's not 24/7 because nothing is 24/7, 3 nines, whatever. You should have something, and I even said, here you do. You have service.netflix.com, you put it on another hosting provider. It's a simple page. It has, red, yellow, green, and an update. And people like me or you, instead of running around your network at home or saying, is it my Apple TV or is it my iPad or is it my computer that's not working, I can easily go to there and then it'll tell me what I need to know. Anyway, I got in this long discussion, and at the end of it I said, listen, I'm not here to beat you up for money or to tell you guys I'm not going to use you or to say, threaten. I'm here because I'm a long-time customer and I want you to succeed, but this is some of the stuff that as a growing company you can't go down for 3 hours and consider it something you don't even communicate to your clients. They didn't even communicate out until this morning that they were sorry they had an outage. 5 days in this business is too long. So anyway, it talks. So Larry goes on about that and about the future.
Yeah, and he, named it Netflix downfall, and I think part of it was about the service interruptions, and part of it was about all the other services that are popping up. That just like this March Madness on Demand sparked, it was like, oh wow, I can watch a live event streaming. This is phenomenal. And we mentioned last week Time Warner coming out with their live version, the Slingbox, which exists. I think another cable company, perhaps it's Comcast, is coming out with something like this. And if Netflix streaming service is going to keep up, they're going to have to do things a little bit differently, and I know that they are actually. They're going out and signing exclusive content agreements where they're going to have sort of content that was created specifically for Netflix streaming. You can't get anywhere else, right? So you can get television shows that are on CBS or ABC or Showtime or whatever on Netflix, but you can also get this original content, a David Fincher produced idea or show that's going to be distributed exclusively through Netflix. So they're sort of creating their own cable channel almost, if you think about it that way, which is an interesting way to go. But
they're also losing cable channels because Showtime is going to start taking back.
Because they're pissed about that.
So I'm not sure that's the way I would go. I would think you'd want to have more content, not specialized content, because I don't go to a place. Very rarely do I go pay for a place just because they have one thing I want. I pay to a place because they have lots of stuff I want. Not because they have one thing. I use Hulu Plus now because they have stuff that no one else has.
But you also pay for HBO.
No. I actually stopped paying for HBO and Showtime.
That's good.
Because they don't follow
your own thing. Good.
Right. So, but when they have things I want.
But people do pay for things like HBO, $12 a month.
I was paying, something ridiculous.
Right. So if you can get original content that's as good or close to as good as, and maybe it'll take some time to get there, HBO productions like Sopranos or a Deadwood or The Wire or Boardwalk Empire or something like that. Plus all that other stuff that's more on demand. Everything's going on demand, so it'll be interesting to see how Netflix plays it out.
I think really Netflix should focus on not only the customer service stuff that I gave them suggestions, but I think they should also focus on more up-to-date stuff. So I go in now and, if I were Netflix, I would be fighting with Hulu, not fighting with Showtime, because Hulu has the episodes that aired last night. And as a viewer, yes, I can catch up in Scrubs by watching it on Netflix, seasons 1 through 7, but I'm paying for Hulu because I can catch up on, The Office and Parks and Rec, what happened last night. So I would that's the way I would go if I were Netflix. I'd go to but I know that's why they built Hulu. Hulu was a response to both Apple and Netflix
and YouTube.
And YouTube.
Because SNL skits were showing up on YouTube and made YouTube, right? Like all these, I think it was like Lazy Sunday was like the first YouTube video I think I ever saw. Someone sent me this link to this YouTube.
That's your first YouTube video?
Yeah, it's like in 2004 or 5 or something like that, and it was like, wow, this is pretty cool. Or 2006, whenever it was. Yeah, who knew this thing called YouTube existed? So, yeah, it was interesting.
Well, 2 little pieces coming out of Google this week. One is that, and we talked last week actually about how they're shifting their release schedule, and so things are coming out. One is the Chrome. So we talked actually about Google Chrome going to 10. Well, they just released their beta of 11. I think the browser wars are back.
I think so too.
I think we're getting, because Firefox 4 is out there. They're claiming numbers that they had more downloads than
twice as much.
Internet Explorer 9. Chrome
times 2,
twice as much.
Like not only do we have more, but we literally crushed you.
I feel like Firefox is kind of in a losing battle at this point, because if you want the openness and you want the plugins, you got Chrome. If you want the security and sort of the person to stay with you and as a big company behind it, not something open source, you have Safari. Where does that leave Firefox?
Well, also you have Safari that ships with an OS. You have IE that ships with an OS. And then if you want the extensibility, Google's pretty big time. So, you go with the Google Chrome. It's you're right, unfortunately. But Firefox had a little bit of a head start beyond Chrome, so they still get.
But they're not as fast as any of them.
Oh no, I haven't.
I saw the test.
I haven't gotten the new one.
They're not faster than any other browser.
In fact, still, honestly,
Chrome and Opera still beat everybody.
I'm a Safari guy. I use Safari on my Apple. That's what I use, and I use Chrome if I need 2 browsers. Chrome's my second. Firefox is installed, but I very rarely even use it.
I use Safari for main, then Chrome for a ton. I love Chrome, and then Firefox if I want to test. There's a couple of extensions, like some SEO stuff that's in Firefox I use. Anyway, Chrome 11 is coming out, the betas or the public betas, and it's going to include speech to text. So speaking to your browser.
And this is probably part of the Chrome moving from being a browser to being the OS, the platform. Right. So that's an OS type feature, right? You think of having speech to text. That's like OS level stuff. To have it in a browser, I assume HTML5 somewhere.
Well, they all are doing HTML5 support.
Gotcha.
They all pass the ACID test, which is the most which is a test that tests how much they do HTML5.
An HTML5 speech input API.
Right. So it's cool. I mean, I'm not sure I'm talking to my browser yet, but maybe.
What is this? Also making a first appearance in the beta is support for GPU accelerated 3D CSS. What does that mean?
I think that means the CSS based or HTML browser based gaming will start to appear.
3D? 3D, yeah. Not like put on a pair of glasses and things pop out in my face 3D.
Pretty much.
Wow.
Salesforce, in your face. You know what it'll make it really good?
Chatter. Your boss pops out and yells at you via chatter.
A 3D...
No! Sell more!
A 3D Google Wave.
Oh.
Nice. Alrighty. So, another story out of Google this week, which was they're now integrating, talking about Google Wave, which is actually a Google Wave thing. They're putting discussions inside of their Google apps, specifically Docs, because
this has existed in Sheets for a long time.
It's not chat though; it's discussions, and here's why: because you can close them out. You can have a discussion and then close out that discussion. So what's nice is it's not like a comment; it's like a back and forth. And they showed the video has some really cool, like inviting people into it, very much like Chatter. And very much like Google Wave. So you can see where Google Wave, while we all lament the fact that it's dead, although we use it and no one's talked about when it's going to end. So
it's never dying.
It's never dying. It's evergreen. This is a cool way of building in the technology into other apps.
It has at mentions.
Yep.
With replies. Yeah, that's interesting.
So
now I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
Before I wasn't looking at it.
Good job. So, is there anything on this agenda?
I do my show research as the show's going on.
Very good, because you're a broadcaster. Mm-hmm. Wait, that's a different joke.
No.
So another story, which is actually has two pieces, which is Amazon released the new Android App Store.
Yes.
And then was sued immediately by Apple.
I think this is interesting. Forgetting for a second that they're getting sued by Apple. Let's put that aside for a moment.
Okay.
I think it's interesting that a e-tail, what do they call that? E-commerce?
Sure.
E-tail. Did I just make that up? Probably not.
Nope.
That they are like, we know how to sell things, okay?
Right.
We have all the accounts. We know how to process payments. We have recommendation engines. We have search engines that get you, from place to place. Sorry, that's our iPhone. We get calls in the middle of our podcast. Meanwhile, the guy leaves the room and doesn't take his phone with him.
I don't know why you keep talking. That is a part of broadcasting history.
That's podcasting for you.
Alrighty. So keep going.
Sorry, I was going. They know how to do stores.
Right. They bought Zappos the other year, a couple years ago. So they're clearly expanding. Them doing an Android store though, I don't know.
I think it's interesting.
Didn't Android already have its own marketplace?
Yeah, but it's all right. Let me full disclosure.
You don't have an Android.
Don't have an Android phone.
It doesn't sound
never
like that
had
phone.
An Android phone. Doesn't sound like the phone that just rang. That was neither yours nor mine. And the person shall remain nameless.
All right.
But they know how to do this, and maybe they take on that aspect and make it easier for developers to pump their stuff into Amazon as opposed to the way that Google is doing it, and it just gives them an alternative way to get their stuff out there.
An alternative marketplace on top of the marketplace?
Well, maybe the Google Marketplace isn't that good. Maybe it has bad browsing ability. Maybe it has bad, the Genius engine. Maybe it just stinks, and Amazon knows how to do this stuff. So
yeah, I mean, hey, listen, I love Amazon. I can use Amazon. I use Amazon for too much stuff, and we've talked about before. I go through One Cause, which is a way to raise money for schools. So I raise money for the school that my kid goes through, and I literally buy everything from toilet paper to cases of coffee to. I mean, I buy anything I can possibly get through Amazon Prime. I'm through Amazon. I love it. So I want them to succeed because I think that they have a great service. It's very fast. It's easy. You can also do subscriptions. What I love about that, like subscribe to dishwasher soap. Like I know I go through so much dishwasher soap a month. Just every 2 months, send me another 3 packs of, or whatever, 3 boxes of it. It's great stuff. It kind of makes shopping for groceries easy. But so I love Amazon doing this. I think the Android marketplace needs consolidation and to be better, not to be sort of splintered and have.
Yeah, but what if Amazon does it better? Then Google doesn't have to do it, right?
I don't think Google goes in a position of we're not going to do it at that point. I think that just goes, oh well, someone else is going to do it and take their cut, and we're not going to take our cut. I think this is more interesting from the standpoint of Amazon knows how to do this, I think, better than Google would, but again, it's splintering the market. So then I want to get Angry Birds Rio, which should have been my app pick of the week. Maybe we should make our game pick.
Well, they're giving that away for free. That's part of the marketing that they're providing. They're doing, free apps today, free apps this week, different. They really do know how to do this. They know how to sell stuff online.
Yeah, and they have a huge market, and millions of people log in. So, anyway, interesting, part of your predictions for the year where it was, or I think as we talked about, is really getting rid of the CD, right? No longer having CDs anymore. The App Store, the Android App Store, the Google Marketplace, the App Exchange, it's all getting there. And we're only in March. Wait to see what happens in the next 2 months.
Our predictions are rocking this year.
They're rocking.
They're rocking.
You know what I predicted?
Tell me.
LinkedIn.
100 million users.
No, you didn't. Yeah, I did. I'm going to put that back in post. I'll go put that back into the podcast from last year. So yeah, this is I think it's a big thing for LinkedIn, which in some ways is making it stand as not the anti-Facebook, but the Facebook for corporations, the I don't even know. I actually think LinkedIn has some of the better, because it doesn't have it's not as, how do I put this? LinkedIn doesn't have a game in the social networking, because it's not supposed to be social networking. So it can play nicely with any social networking. And because you're networking on a very high level, not a here's pictures of my kid level, but a here's what I did for, in the last company, I think it can grow in that way, in that market, very fast. Because I'll admit, if someone links in me that I'm not even sure of, I'm like, sure, what are you going to see? You're going to see basically my resume. Fine. You want to follow my tweets and see which companies I follow? And it's like such high level stuff that I don't mind it. As opposed to Facebook, I'm much more protective, because I am more apt to put things like, pictures of kids, family, what I did last night, although, that's not interesting to anybody anyway. But I think LinkedIn hitting 100 million users is huge. And I think that they're on a path to really, I don't know. I mean, one of my predictions this year was someone was going to make make a stand against Facebook and kind of take a big, be the next up and comer. I don't think LinkedIn's because I don't think people think of it that way. But I love some of the integration they're doing. I love the way that they integrate with, other third parties. They're much more open about it.
Well, they have apps too. I mean, just like Facebook, they have, apps that you can install on top of your profile, right? You go to your profile and it's like, oh, would you like to install more apps to make your profile more rich, right? More sections, and the sections have like all these different skill levels. Like you can add your certifications, you can add any patents or publications that you've done, or skills, or really.
Or your reading list. I use the one from Amazon, which allows me to put up the books I'm interested in reading, and I can follow other people.
Your blog. Yep. A Box.net account. Yes. Whatever, a SlideShare account. You can put your slides that you've done. So, it's really for professional. I use LinkedIn sort of as my, not my real address book, but it's like, oh, remember that person I worked with like 3 years ago? I wanted to reach out to them. Oh, I'll just go into LinkedIn and just type in their name, and boom, there they are. I'm already linked in with them.
I used the other day. Someone was asking about a company that I had not done business with, so I didn't have any context from them. But I'm like, I remember going to an event where I literally typed in the name of the company, up came the company page, and there were 3 people who I had as first connections. One of them was in sales. I was like, oh, well, that's an easy connection. I can say. And then I remembered where I met him from, because, the connection was, oh, I saw the picture, and I was like, great. And I contacted them directly. I think it's a great tool. I don't know how, they bust out of it, or maybe if they have enough. Like, do they start reselling data like Jigsaw? That could be interesting.
Oh, I would not like that. I think you have to be very upfront with that when you start your service, and you're like, your data's up for sale.
But what do you care? As long as it's right. I'd rather my data and my title and my phone number be right than not be.
I'd want to opt into that.
Okay, well maybe they'll make it an opt-in. They'll opt you in.
I mean, again, I'm fine with it, but I'd rather know that it's happening than, not know. The point is, like, sometimes you can't see things in there because you don't want. You do have like privacy settings. My favorite thing actually about LinkedIn is looking at the
people who looked at your page,
who've looked at you like in the last 7 days.
Yeah,
like that feature right there is enough for me to like want to upgrade sometimes and be like, God, I wish I knew who that tech professional in the New York City greater metropolitan area was.
It's true,
and it sometimes prevents me from clicking on other people. Like, I'm like, I don't want to click on them. I don't want them to know I was looking at their
The only thing is when I go to Facebook and I go look at someone else's pictures, I'm always like, I wonder if they're going to start this feature on Facebook. It's like, Jason Atwood is looking at pictures of you.
It's like, oh, what's he doing?
Yeah, why is he looking at pictures?
Scumbag.
So, wow. We'll edit that out in post.
Yeah. All right, we have a lot of editing to do in this podcast.
We do a lot of editing. So let's finish up the podcast with some CloudFocus app picks of the week. I'll let you go first. What have you got from Force.com Labs?
Nothing from Force.com Labs. No, I do love the Force.com Labs, and they did release something today, but I haven't had a chance to really look at it. I might pick it next week. Okay. But in the meantime, I'm going to pick a tool that it is for Salesforce, and it's meant for administrators, and it's a great time saver. It's called Power Admin Tools by Software Anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's on the App Exchange. It is free, so that's good. And what it does is it creates a tab in Salesforce that you can add to any app called Admin. And within this Admin tab, it gives you access to all those things that you have to like dig 4 levels down to get to in the administrator screen. Like if I wanted to view every field on an account, right now I'm 1 click away from it. If I wanted to look at any workflow rules on a case, I'm 1 click away from it. If I want to look at all the page layouts for a lead, I'm 1 click away from it. I don't have to click my name, click setup, go over to customize, click customize, open that up, find the object, open the object, and then look at the thing to see what I want to look at. That's like 4 or 5 clicks. It's just in a tab. And you could create list views of them. So they have, standard. It comes with all objects standard, objects custom,
right.
And you can add columns to your list views and remove them. It's actually really good time saver. Great for a Salesforce admin that's always in the setup area, particularly since Salesforce removed the setup link. This really just kills it.
Not that we're bitter about that at all.
This kills it, though. This is just way better than that. So I would recommend it. Power Admin Tools.
How much?
I said free.
Oh, free?
By Software Anywhere. Just free.
Nice.
Go to it.
Go. Great. I'm going to actually pick something that I've been using for the longest time, but I could have sworn I've picked, and we've talked about, which is that if you're a Google Calendar, Google Apps user, and you have you want to be able to keep your Google Calendar and your Salesforce Calendar in sync, Apereo has a tool called Apereo Calendar Sync, which actually syncs on a schedule your Salesforce calendar and your Google Calendar. So that's somewhat useful. I mean, they're both browser based, so it's like, okay, well, I can jump back and forth between 2 browser windows. But what makes it more powerful is that Google Calendar then can be done a lot of things with, including subscribing to it. So what's nice about Google Calendars is you can subscribe to those calendars from other calendaring, like desktop calendaring applications like Outlook or iCal. So you can have a calendar subscription using CalDev, which is the calendar subscription, one of the standards for two-way subscription, meaning you can edit. So I can use iCal on my Mac, have a calendar there for Arkus, and I can add events, see what's on. I can mash that up over a calendar of my personal. So I have my personal calendar, which syncs with my iPhone. So what's nice is, and I was talking with a client about this the other day. They're like, do you put everything on one calendar? I said, no, I have multiple calendars. I just need to be able to see them in one view, because that's the essence of calendars is I want to be able to see, here's all my Arkus stuff, here's all my personal stuff. Oh yeah, here's the Jets calendar, right? Their season schedule.
Here's Mom's birthday.
Here's the birthday calendar that's pulling from my address book. And what did I put in the other day? I put in something, the holiday calendar. So you can have them all mash up, and you can pick which ones you want to see, but then throw them all on top of each other so you can make sure there's no,
And the reason why, we use Salesforce's calendar as sort of our gold calendar, even though it syncs with our Google Apps calendar, as opposed to using Google calendars, because in Salesforce you can relate events to things and people. So we like to see, this event was related to this client for this project. Right. And we can see that, and then that syncs down to the Google Cal, which sort of just has, the blocked off time with the location and the description and what have you. But that's why we sync them back and forth so that we can have them in multiple places.
Right, because you
lose that rich data, the Salesforce data, if you use sort of Google as the gold copy, although you absolutely can, and then your events will just flow into Salesforce, but they lose a little meaning if they're not related to
or if you
things.
Don't add the meaning. I do it the other way. I'll get an event via email, I'll click on it, accept it in iCal. It will then sync automatically to Google Calendar, which will then, within the 2-hour time period, because that's what the free calendar for Apereo does, syncs over to Salesforce, and then in Salesforce I'll enrich it. So it'll come across as just an event, and then I'll go add in the who and the what that's related to a person and a thing. So it's an opportunity or a project. We do all our project management in Salesforce. So then I enrich it on that side so I can track that and so see the relationship when I go back into it. It really works great. I finally figured out how to get to sort of I try to keep most of the things in Salesforce, but it does work both ways. Not always perfect. There's always sometimes you're like, wait, I thought that was there, but I would find 90% of the time I feel like it's
sometimes my stuff gets duped, and other times events that I deleted months ago just show back up somehow.
Show up again.
So like sometimes it works 100% of the time.
Alrighty. Well, anyway, it's free. They have actually
2 free picks this week. How about that?
They have a pay version of it. I can't tell you what it does I think you can set it more frequently, and I think you can then sync contacts.
Perhaps you get support with that paid one? Because there's no support for the free one, right?
You're kind of on your own, which is good and bad. But anyway, Imperial Google Calendar Sync, a very good. I think it should be native. I wish Salesforce would just build it native. It shouldn't be an installable thing, but
that's very funny you say that, because a client was talking to me about like the Google integration,
right?
And although it's there, it's
all built by Imperial.
And there's also very loose ends, like the Outlook integration works really well. You can add an email that you get that comes in, right? An incoming email received back from a contact or a lead. Well, how would you do that from Gmail?
Click the Gmail button. It's automatically puts in the BCC for you.
No. You're misunderstanding. And I send you an email. You're a contact in my Salesforce. You reply back to me with something important, and I want to log that email. What do I do with it?
Oh, from where? From Gmail?
Yeah. I have to forward it to the BCC address and then go in and solve the unresolved item. It's sort of clunky. That should work.
Yeah,
there should be a browser button or an extension or something.
I don't know if you're looking at my T-shirt, but my T-shirt has a safe harbor on it, and the safe harbor is I know that there's plans down the road for Salesforce to get a little bit better about
they gotta get tighter with Gmail.
I think it's email in general, and where they're going to show you more threads, and where they're going to allow you to reply to stuff. So, right now, the problem with email or email events that are logged in Salesforce is you can't start from that and then reply to it. Right?
You can do it in Cases, but that's the only place you can do it. Cases has an emails related list.
So
now we're getting Salesforce geeky.
Yes. Well, it's CloudFocus Weekly podcast. So that was it. If you want to get more geeky or read Larry's blog post, maybe give him a call.
Give him a call. The phone will ring.
Yep. blog.arkusinc.com. You want to follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/ArkusInc. That's ARKUSINC. And I'm on Twitter at twitter.com/JasonMAtwood. Justin is at twitter.com/JustEdelstein. And we're all on Facebook, facebook.com/ArkusInc. Best way to subscribe to the podcast is in iTunes. Subscribe there. Leave a great review if you enjoy the podcast. We'd love to see that there. Also, we're on LinkedIn. So go on over to LinkedIn, search for Arkus Inc. and
follow us.
You can. I'll link in with anybody.
Me too.
I have 722. I'll go to 3,000, or I'll go to 11. Alrighty. So until next week, enjoy those cloudy days.